to rock this place.
Welcome to the Buffalo Sports Conversation Room. I'm your host, Jamie Malloy, and I'm excited to talk about Week 9 football. But first, I'd like to bring on my co-host, as always, the awesome Mets fan, the also awesome member of Bills Mafia, Mr. Joe Dalio, and a friend of his and special guest, Ray from Clarence, New York. He is a lifelong Bills, Sabres, and Yankees fan, just like your host here, and enjoys calling and talking into radio shows. So first, ladies and gentlemen, let's bring on the one, the only, Mr. Joe Dalio. Hey, Joe, how's it going?
It is going very well. How you doing, Jamie?
I am fantastic. It's great to have you back. Last week, it seemed like we were talking about a great win. This week, we got to talk about a disappointing loss despite an inconsistent effort from the offense, but a decent effort by the defense. And unfortunately, they couldn't put two sides of the ball together in that game.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to talking about some football. Maybe not exactly looking forward to talking about a loss. But forgive me if I'm a little off. I'm in my work clothes here. I usually work during the day, but we had parent conferences today. And the bad news about that is I just got home about 15 minutes ago. So just trying to get all my thoughts together. The good news is there's a lot of downtime during the day, and I had plenty of time to look at stats and things like that. So I have some very interesting ones that I'm going to present to you guys, and, we'll see if there's any correlations there. But also excited to have our guest on. I'm always excited to work with you. And, again, you'll introduce Ray in a little bit, but we've been friends over 30 years. So looking forward to see what you both have to say tonight.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that too. And as we talked about it backstage pre-show, that you were wearing those clothes because you had the parent-teacher conference meetings, and
Right.
Luckily you were able to share that to our viewers now. But anyway, now, ladies and gentlemen, here he is. Let's bring on our next guest for the first time on the Buffalo Sports Conversation Room. Please welcome Ray from Clarence.
Hello, gentlemen. Thanks for having me.
How you doing?
Thanks for coming on.
So good. Appreciate the invitation.
That's awesome. So before we start, would you like to tell our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm a Buffalo homegrown fan, Sabres and Bills, New York Yankees. I had a chance to drive O.J. Simpson around in a limo on his 20-year anniversary of 2,000 yards in a season back in 1992. This was all before his demise and the Bronco chase and his civil trials. I had a chance to drive Bruce Smith around in a limo. And Jamie, I don't know if you remember Art Wander from Talk Radio. Do you remember him from WGR many years ago?
Art Wander? I didn't start listening to GR until I started going to the games with my dad. He had season tickets through Nestle's for 22 years.
That's when I started calling into the radio program. He called himself the Pope of Sports. So as a little joke, I used to be the Cardinal, is putting myself one level below him, calling into sports. So for 30 some years, I've been calling into different shows and just getting involved and airing out frustrations and giving feedback. And I just love to hear people's feedback on what you have to say.
But what I always remember from GR, the guy that goes, "Let's go Bills, let's go Bills, let's go Bills, Bills," and that stuck with me ever since I was a kid.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah, so we're very happy to have you on as a guest this week, as we mentioned.
Thank you.
So are we guys ready to talk about Thursday night's game between the Tennessee Titans against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and we can save our chitty chat post show?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, so let's begin. So anyway, the Steelers took the game 20-16 and they held off a defensive late interception by Will Levis to secure the game and take the W. So, Joe, even though the Titans lost that game and the Steelers were able to hang on for the win and improve to 5-3, and the Titans fall to 3-5, I guess Will Levis has proven that he looks like he can be the real deal, as he proved in his first game. His second game was obviously a much difficult task against a Steelers Pro Bowl caliber defense, but these are the games also where you learn to become a better pro. Like, you learn to become a pro when you play well against Atlanta, when you win, but the games where you have to go up against a veteran defense like that, that's where you also learn to grow as a rookie. So what are your thoughts on Will Levis's performance and also the Steelers win?
Yeah, I agree that I think he's the real deal. And I was reading somewhere earlier today that they say basically, they've kind of proven that it looks like he's going to take over the number one spot, and I think he's kind of showing that he deserves that. I didn't really see too much of the game, but these are two teams that I just can't figure out. I thought the Titans would be better. And again, they played a close game here and they could have won this game. And there's a few other games like this during the season that were the same thing. They certainly had chances to win, and this was one of them. But even though, excuse me, they lost this game, and it doesn't look like there's much optimism left as far as a playoff spot. I think they have a lot of reason for optimism, going forward, and the questions that they've had at quarterback may be answered in a positive way. I mean, it's only been a couple of games. I mean, you can't get too excited if you're a Titans fan, but again, I think you could definitely be optimistic. The Steelers are another team that I just can't figure out. I mean, how this team is 5-3, I don't know. And in fact, I read a very interesting quote today. It's like, this Steelers team cannot do anything well except win games. Somehow they pull these games out, and here's another close one, and somehow they're 5-3 and in the middle of a playoff push, and I don't think they're going to win their division, but at least it's still in the conversation. So give them credit, give their coach credit. I mean, God, this guy's got like 10 lives, and he's got this mediocre team in the middle of a playoff hunt again. And I just don't know how it happens, but kudos to them. And again, winning games is the most important thing you can do anyway, right? So if there's one thing you're going to do well and winning games is it, then I guess you're not doing too bad.
Exactly. Winning cures most of your ills, which is good. So Ray, what do you think? Your thoughts?
I did watch the first half of the game, and that was my first time watching Will Levis. And I always want to call him Levi Wallace, the former Buffalo Bill. That name always comes to my mind. He came out. I wasn't too impressed with him to start with. He came into a very hostile environment. He was getting knocked around. Pittsburgh was all over him. He was under pressure. But he reminded me of Captain America, where he just kept getting up, and he said, I could do this all day. I found him gritty. I think he is the future of that team. I believe they held on to Tannehill a little bit too long. I feel like there was a team that probably could have traded for him. If I was Tennessee, I think they held on to some of their players a little too long. Like, I don't know what they were asking for Henry or for Hopkins, but I know I would have loved the Bills to have grabbed Hopkins. But one thing I was impressed with Will Levis was to end the first half. He was gritty going down. He was making excellent throws, small windows. They only got a field goal on it, but points are points. And I was very impressed with him playing on the road in his second game. And I don't know how much you saw of the game, Jamie, but I was getting deja vu to home run throwback. There was a couple times where he rolled out to the right, and he threw it to Hopkins. It reminded me of Wycheck to Dyson. And Hopkins was actually going to throw it, but the play got turned around and stopped. But there was a few times I was reliving 30 years ago, or no, 20-some years ago in that playoff game. And of all teams, it had to be Tennessee. But as Joe was saying, I don't know how Pittsburgh's winning these games, and it's really hurting Buffalo. I'm sure we'll talk about this, that the playoff teams, it's getting more crowded, and it's spelling trouble for the Bills, as I'm looking at these other AFC games.
As of right now, it does, but we'll talk about that in the later. And my thought was, I got both points of your view. You said that Levis didn't look impressive at first, but as I mentioned, that this is how you get better as a pro, as a rookie. You learn to get knocked down against some of the better defenses, but what do? You get right back up. It kind of reminds me, Kenny Pickett was in that position last year in his first start against Buffalo's world beater defense. The team was 1-4, and they decided Trubisky wasn't getting it done, so we're going to throw our rookie quarterback Pickett to the Wolves against the Bills. And I think that was the game where he learned to be a pro, because after that, he slowly got better towards the end of the year, and it's carried on to this year. So, yeah, I think Levis, see how he does into the future.
One thing I did see with him, he throws with all arm. I noticed he reminded me of Josh Allen in the first or second year. He just used his God-given ability and threw with all arm. He wasn't stepping into it. I think once he grows and matures into that, he'll be an even better quarterback and have more arm strength and less strain, and I think prolong his career. Because if you're just, not zipping it, not using your body weight and your legs, you're causing potential injury, and he could put more into it if he uses more of his body.
And that's what Brett Favre had to learn, being a gunslinger. He was the same way. He would use his he trusts his arm a lot and wouldn't move around the pocket. But then once he started learning how to move around the pocket, he became more of a complete quarterback, and that's how he was able to win a Super Bowl and be and have longevity at that position before Aaron Rodgers also had longevity too. So.
Yeah, hopefully the coaches pick up on that too.
Yeah.
And if the coaches are good enough, they will, and they can help him along in his development like that too.
And I agree with you too, Ray. Levis does have a little bit Josh Allen in him. He's a big guy. He's mobile and can just sling the rock. So
those guys are fun to watch, though. Those freak strong athletes. They're enjoyable, entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's starting at the college level too, where you see these no huddle offenses, and like Garrett Schrader at Syracuse is the same way. He's a gunslinger, just trusts his arm a lot. So, anyway, moving on to Sunday morning coffee with breakfast type of game here. At least here, not where they were playing in Frankfurt, Germany, as that was 6 hours ahead, was 5 hours until here in America, we decided to set the clocks back an hour. So, but yeah, it's Sunday morning here, and the Kansas City Chiefs jumped out to a 21-0 lead at halftime, and withheld the late rally by the Dolphins to secure the 21-14 win in Frankfurt, Germany. So, Ray, what were your thoughts in that game?
I saw the second half of the game. I feel like Miami's playing the way Buffalo has been. Like you're not as afraid of them as you once were in the beginning of the season. I give them a lot of credit for coming back. Almost did it. And I was conflicted before the game. Who do I want? Do I want Kansas City to win? Do I want Miami to win? What would be the greater good for Buffalo? And after the Bills losing, I'm glad Miami lost, because I still had my hopes set for, maybe a high 2 or 1 seed. But now I'm just in survival. So that was a domino effect for me, that I'm glad Miami lost. Kansas City isn't as daunting to me to play as they have been in the last few years. I feel like they have some issues to work out. But I still love those teams. I still feel that those are 2 of the 3 top seeds in the conference. And one thing I've been noticing, I've been looking at Tyreek Hill every week. His goal in the beginning of the year was to get 2,000 yards in the season, which is crazy to think. And he is on pace. I know his yardage was a little bit down this game, and he had a big fumble, but he may be a quiet MVP in this league. I don't think he'll win it, but I think he's a candidate for it, and rightfully so. But I was also thinking that Mahomes, who was real sick last week or supposedly had the flu, I didn't see any signs of that. with the time difference and lack of sleep and getting adjusted, I thought he played his normal game, which was good.
Yeah, that is a good thing to see. And one thing I think you guys mentioned the Steelers are having a hard time winning games. The Dolphins are playing like the Bills. The Chiefs aren't playing the way they are. It's because, like I said, the conference is probably as good as it's ever been.
Right.
In probably how long in the NFL. And also just if you look around the league, even in the NFC, there's just so much parity this year that there really isn't a dominant team. So I think the playoffs on both each sides are going to be wild this year, more wild than ever. So, Joe, what are your thoughts on the game?
I agree with a lot of what was just said. The Dolphins look like maybe they're coming back down to earth a little bit. But the thing that stood out to me most in this game, and perhaps one of the reasons that the Dolphins came down to earth, is nobody seems to be talking about this Chiefs defense, and to hold the Dolphins to 14 points, that's saying something. This Dolphins offense that's basically been scoring at will. Now, again, you bring up the topic that who have they played? And I know that comes up a lot. They haven't beat anybody good, and they're beating up on these bad defenses and stuff like that. And they played the Bills when the Bills still had all their defensive players, and the Dolphins were not successful against them. But, everybody talks about Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and nobody seems to talk about this defense that I think it's about time to start, because they are very good and maybe even getting better. And when you come up with a performance like this against the Dolphins and hold them to 14 points, I mean, yes, they tried to give it away, it seemed like, as we got late in the game, but giving up only 14 points to that Dolphins offense, I think, is very impressive. And right now, if we're talking MVPs, you guys were just talking about that. I would actually, if I had a vote, would vote for Tyreek Hill at this point of the season, halfway through.
Yeah, I also think you got to give a lot of credit to Steve Spagnuolo, as I call him, Steve Swagnolo. Spags has always is a great defensive coordinator, and his defenses are always well coached. They come at you with a lot of pressure, or they can rush the passer with four guys, and that's how they were. Spags was the reason why the Giants were able to beat the Patriots undefeated season and in the Super Bowl and make them go 18-1. Yes, it was the David Tyree catch, but Spags doesn't get a lot of credit for just going after Brady and blitzing him with a 4-man rush and just throwing pressure at him all day long. And Brady wasn't a normal quarterback that day.
Right.
But so now looking on to the 1:00 game with the Baltimore Ravens taking on the Seattle Seahawks. It was pretty much a one-sided game all afternoon, with the Ravens taking the game 37-3. But we did get to see one of our former players, or at least I did, because the game was on TV here, left tackle Jason Peters. And at 41 years old, it's hard to believe that he's still playing. I remember my first Bills game that I went to outside for season tickets. They ran a tackle eligible play where J.P. Lossman threw the ball to Jason Peters for a touchdown. And the reason why they did that was because when we got him as an undrafted free agent out of Arkansas, he was a tight end.
That's
and
right.
The coaching staff saw that he had really quick feet. So we turned him from a tight end into an all-pro tackle. And sadly, we let him go in the 2009 offseason as we traded him to the Eagles for the 28th overall pick, which did turn out to be Eric Wood. But I love Jason Peters. I just think he's an absolute dog. I mean, he's big boy. He's a road grader at left tackle, and he's been a staple at that position for years to come. And I still miss him. And I think Bills Nation or Bills Mafia would welcome him back on this team with McDermott. So, Joe, what were your thoughts about this game?
I was surprised. I really thought Seattle would keep this close, if not even perhaps steal a victory here. So the fact that Baltimore dominated as much as they did was a little bit surprising to me. I did not get a chance to watch this game, but again, I think the Ravens are proving that they're a team to be reckoned with in the AFC. Trying to think 7-2 now, and not only for their division, but a potential number one seed. And that if these guys stay healthy, the guys they have left, they've already had some major injuries, Dobbins and people like that, and they're still getting stronger here. So they're certainly a team to be reckoned with. I was looking at some stats too. What impressed me the most about this is the passing game for the Ravens. 8 different receivers caught passes. So that's spreading the ball around a little bit, plus you got Lamar Jackson and his running ability in that. But the fact that 8 different guys caught passes, I think is impressive, and that you have that depth and you have those options. And of course, you're going to keep teams guessing, when you're doing that. So the Ravens looked really, really good and show no signs of slowing down.
No, that's an excellent observation. Thank you for that, Joe. So, Ray, what do you think?
I saw a little bit of the game. Baltimore sure looks good. Last year their cornerbacks or defensive backs, they were depleted, and they are going strong. And from a Buffalo standpoint, we're going to need them to continue to wipe out their division and those teams that we're in the playoff hunt with. We need them to go strong. I think Lamar is playing at a high level again, with money issues in the past. He's playing like an MVP also. And Baltimore is a tough place to play. I'd rather see them advance farther than Kansas City, our arch rival.
I would too.
And I really want to see Kansas City on the road if we're not going anywhere. I want to see them go through Baltimore to see how it's done. But I'm very surprised at a few things. I'm surprised Geno Smith is still playing from that Eli Manuel draft. And every time I see Pete Carroll, I don't know if you guys know this, he was with the Bills coaching staff. I believe it was in the 80s. He was a secondary coach. So that's one thing when I go back to childhood, when I see certain people that are on the TV. In his very early career, he played with he coached with the Bills. But I think Seattle is playing, or the record is, I think they're overachieving. I think Seattle will come back. I think they'll miss the playoffs. But for anyone, it's hard to win in Baltimore. Their defense is just so good, and their offense, like Joe said, they can spread it around, and you never know where it's going to come from.
Yeah, the defense you mentioned, somebody on TV Sunday said this defense is performing better than their Super Bowl defense in 2000 that won the Super Bowl.
That's incredible.
So that's scary. If that team with Ray Lewis and all those guys, that dominated and won the Super Bowl, I mean, this defense potentially being better than that.
And now they have a quarterback.
And they got a quarterback that, as long as he stays healthy, is going to continue to guide them and improve as well. Sure. Jamie, did you get a chance to see that?
I did get a chance to see that. Yeah, that's like I said, that defense back in 2000 had all those guys. But remember, the quarterback was Trent Dilfer, who just was just a game manager, and he rode the coattails of that defense. But yeah, right. At least this team has Lamar Jackson. He doesn't have to ride the coattails off of that defense. He can actually play quarterback and let the defense do their thing. So everybody just does their assignment and plays football. Yeah, the Ravens got a team over there. They got the squad, I would say.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, now yes, for our game of the week and Sunday Night Football that we have all been waiting for, the Buffalo Bills on the road at the Cincinnati Bengals. Well, it looked like it was going to be a shootout. The offense then sputtered and the defense took over, but unfortunately, it wasn't enough to win the game as the Bengals won 24-18. Joe, what do you have to say about this Bills loss that you predicted at 27-24 as Joe Cool looks like he gets to chomp on another victory cigar after a press conference and into the locker room?
Yeah, I wanted to be wrong about this. I didn't want the cigar, but, when the game first started, in fact, beforehand, I heard somebody saying, how people win the coin tosses now and they defer, right? It seems to be the norm in the NFL. But somebody was saying that, you know what, the Bengals said if they win the toss, they're going to receive right away. And sure enough, that's what happened. And when I first started watching this game, I swore I flashed back to January 2nd because it started the same exact way that game did. You know, and the Bengals just moved the ball so easily down the field. It's like, oh my goodness, here we go again. We're basically going to get an answer to how that game would have gone, right? Because it was a carbon copy. And, you know, luckily, of course, no major injuries here. But, you know, again, I mean, the Bills played decent. I thought this game could have gone either way. In fact, I think I was talking to Ray earlier that day, and I said I had predicted the Bengals to win, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Bills won easily either, you know? So, you know, they have an uphill climb. I mean, that's for sure, you know, after this. But, you know, and we'll talk about some ways that I think can help them in a little bit. But, you know, give credit to the Bengals that I've seen this movie 100 times, it seems like now. You know, the Bengals start slow. You think, okay, we're not going to have to worry about this team anymore. And here they are hitting their stride in the middle of the season and just getting better and better. And now they got a healthy Joe Burrow. So there's another dangerous team in the AFC. And again, like what Ray said, I guess we can hope the same thing, that they just kind of beat each other all up, that the Ravens dominate them, and, you know, that the Bengals and Steelers and Browns could disappear from the picture. But the Bengals are making it look like that's not going to happen. So they're a dangerous team right now. You know, the Bills just, I don't know, you know, and they're, like I said, I have some suggestions, but, you know, they didn't look horrible. They didn't get embarrassed. You know, maybe they had chances if this goes right, if that goes right, to win this game. But, you know, they got beat by, right now anyway, a better team.
Yeah, I can agree with that. For right now, yeah, the Bengals were the better team that game. They were better from start to finish, and the Bills did have a valiant effort by their defense, but the offense couldn't make up for it. So, Ray, your thoughts?
Joe, you read my mind. I wrote that down when I made notes, that game reminded me of January 2nd, the way they came out. And I was convinced that the way it started here, that's how it was going to end last year.
Yeah.
Or earlier this year. But then the Bills came back in their opening drive and scored, and then I felt good. I felt really good. I was then disappointed on their second drive. I'm one of those guys that you go with your strength. I'm a Nolan Ryan fan back from the 80s and 90s, where his fastball was his strength. You know, if he knew that the batters couldn't hit him, he kept attacking. He wouldn't mess around. And what aggravated me was that the Bills came out on their second drive, run, sack. You know, and it's like, why? Go with what works. Go with what works. And it was so frustrating. I don't care if you throw 20 times in a row. If it works, you go with your strength, and that's how you get it done. I don't know if you know this, but going into the game, and this was such a big game for head-to-head and for the record, but Cincinnati had no wins in the AFC. All their wins to that point was 4 against the NFC. So I really thought this was a chance to bury them, or at least, you know, throw 5 feet of dirt on them, because when it comes to tiebreakers and it comes to the AFC at the end of the year, that's a big hole to dig out of. And our record in the AFC is not good either. I think we're 2-4 with 4 losses. You know, it could have gave Cincinnati their 4 conference losses. So I was looking at that as everything's starting to bunch together now, and we're losing head to head. You know, it's great we got wins, but we're winning against the NFC and not against the AFC teams, and we're losing those precious division and AFC games. We've got to do better, Jamie, on offense. I don't know who's calling the shots on offense. I don't know if it's Dorsey. I know he gets a lot of blame, but is it McDermott? You know, and we'll never know. Is he telling Dorsey what he wants? He wants to run. He wants to slow it down. I mean, our injuries are on defense, not on offense. The only injury we have is to Knox, and I really think it was a blessing because it forced us to get out of the 2 tight ends set and go to the 3 and 4 wide receivers. And once again, that's our strength. Letting Allen throw the ball, spread the field. And when you spread the field, it opens up lanes for him to run if needed. And that's what's been successful. Now, things like...
And what other team do you see do that too? The Kansas City Chiefs. 1 tight end with Travis Kelce, 3-4 wide receivers. Again, and Mahomes has an arm like Allen. That's their strength.
Absolutely. And I'm not seeing the same team. On paper, going into this year, we were supposed to be better offensively than what we are. We had a 3-game stretch that was good. You know, Cole Beasley left, John Brown left, Isaiah McKenzie left, and then we draft a tight end. We get Hardy and Sherfield. We were all confident that this was going to be a better offense. You know, we were happy with Cook coming in. We're happy with the other running backs. And for some reason, we are just hitting a wall. 7 points in the first half is not acceptable. Not acceptable at all, especially when your defense holds them to 14 in Cincinnati, and then we lose our 2 linebackers, and we just give up 24. I thought 30 was the magic number that we had to get to win, and it's just disappointing. It's disappointing. I'm sure we'll get more into it, but that's my initial thought was even some of the play calling.
Yeah, but like I said, they said this week that at least the team is still upbeat about their game plan with Dorsey and McDermott and everything. And you know how they are. It's not in their demeanor to get down when things don't go their way because every time they've stayed positive, it's usually turned around and it comes into its fruition. So they're not ones to point the fingers or beat each other down when things are going bad. And that's the sign of a good organization. They're like that. But things do need to change hurry. And I don't mind going with the 1 tight end, 3 wide receiver sets. But the good news is Dawson Knox should be coming back in 2 weeks. And I hope Quentin Morris is able to come back soon because he's been inactive the last 2 weeks. But how about we talk about probably one of our favorite acquisitions, or how about Vinal Joseph? I call him the tush-push stopper because did you see when Cincinnati tried to run the tush-push and it looked like Burrow was about to get the first down and Vinal Joseph stopped his forward progress, like picked him up, pushed him 3 yards back and just threw Burrow right on the ground. And
I thought he was going to body slam him.
And I don't know about you, Ray. I mean, but Ray, doesn't he give you kind of that Ted Washington or Pat Williams or Sam Adams kind of vibe in the early 2003 with Greg Williams, where you get this big body in the middle and figure how you're gonna run up the middle with that.
You know what? And I'll be honest, I'll plead ignorance. I never heard of the gentleman, but once I saw him, I couldn't believe he wasn't acquired sooner or by someone else. And, you know, with our defensive line, we're not getting any pressure. It seems like that's gone cold in the last few games. Epinesa has gone quiet the way he was before his 3-game success story earlier in the season. I mean, I'm not seeing settle. Vaughn is unimpactful. I don't know what's going on. We're not getting any push. So I'd give this guy the chance. Play him. Play the Ted Washington. He was a success story here.
Yeah, he was. And I think he's a big man. He can move. And like I said, plug up the middle, try to run right through me. And like I said, why do you think he knows how to stop the tush push? Because he was originally with the Eagles and he probably had to run against that in practice every day, and he knew how to stop it. So now we're bringing him in to be our tush push stopper. I'm going to call him Vinal the tush push stopper Joseph.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, after that, it fits, right?
Yep. So anyway, guess what, Ray? It's your moment now. You mentioned about the question of the week. And guess what? It is now time to ask the question of the week to you. So are you ready for your question, Ray?
I'm ready. I'm about 50-50 as I watch every week. And I go through the same process that Joe and your other guests. I try to sometimes, if I don't know the answer, I do process of elimination. And It always comes down to one or two, and I'm 50-50 in guessing them right. So hopefully this will push me over.
Okay, Ray, so here's your question. Can you guess this NFL player was? He played in the 2010s, made one Super Bowl appearance, was an offensive rookie of the year, as Chris Berman would say, and had led the league with the 6 most rushing touchdowns. Is it Beast Mode Boss, Marshawn Lynch, Mark Ingram, Cam, everybody's favorite fashion designer / dresser Newton, or LaShawn Shady McCoy?
All right, so 2010 was the rookie year, correct? Was their rookie year, you said?
No, 2011 it was, but he played in the 2010s.
Okay.
I'm glad Ray got this question because I have no idea.
Oh my gosh, that's the hardest one out of the 9 weeks.
Yeah.
All right, so can you read it one more time, please?
Yes, I can. So again, NFL player played in the 2010s, went to 1 Super Bowl, won the offensive rookie of the year, and had led the league with the 6 most rushing touchdowns. Is it Marshawn Beast Mode Boss Lynch, Mark Ingram, Cam, everybody's favorite fashion designer, dresser, model Cam Newton, or LaShawn Shady McCoy?
It wasn't Lynch. I think I would have remembered if he was offensive rookie of the year. So I'm going to eliminate him. I'm just going to go. I'm going to say Cam Newton.
You got it. It was correct. It was Cam Newton. And like I said, he was everybody's original favorite dual threat quarterback in the NFL before Russell Wilson. And he's also the world's best sunglass wearer, the colorful designer clothes, and the way he wears that hat and sunglasses now, and he rocks it now. But yeah, you were correct, Ray. Congratulations. It was
Thank
Cam
you.
Newton.
I guess that's who Josh is chasing down now, right? Is Josh second most in rushing touchdowns as a quarterback, and Cam's first?
Yeah.
He's still got a ways to go. I think he might be 30-some behind, but Jamie,
So go ahead.
I actually have a question for you. If I can.
Yeah, I was just going to ask. Fire away. Do you have one for me?
During the Jim Kelly years, there is one team, well, 2 teams, because the Bills didn't play the Bills, but there's one team that the Bills did not play in Kelly's 10 years as quarterback of the Bills. Was it A, the San Diego Chargers, B, the Indianapolis Colts, C, the Atlanta Falcons, or D, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? The Bills did not play this one team at all during his 10 or 11-year career.
I do know they played the Falcons because that was Andre Reed versus Deion Sanders in 1992. So it's not the Falcons. I'm trying to think, were the Chargers in San Diego then, or were they the LA Chargers?
I believe they were the San Diego Chargers.
I do think they played them, I want to say. So and then you said what was it? Tampa Bay Bucks?
Tampa Bay or the Colts? Those are the 2 remaining teams, the Colts and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
I'm going to say the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
No, ironically, it was the San Diego Chargers.
Really?
The Bills in 1985, I was talking about this with Joe. In 1985, even though they weren't in the same division, they played them twice. I don't know why, but then they went from 1985 all the way to 1998 without playing them. And as we know, Kelly played from 86 to 96. So an in-conference team, they did not see it all during his career. I was surprised at that.
Yes.
That's unlikely with an NFC team too, because they play the NFC divisions every 4 years, guaranteed. So you would think it would have to be an AFC team rather, with the chance that through scheduling quirks and placement and things like that, I guess that they would.
Do you remember when they had 5 teams in the division? I guess they could have skipped a team because they would only play 4 NFC
The Colts
teams.
the Colts were that 5th team in that division.
Yes. So I just thought that was interesting. I don't know why they played San Diego twice in 1985, but
I don't remember
That's
that.
a good question, Ray. And the reason why I always talk about the Colts being the 15 is because I was mad when they left because Tom Brady ruled the AFC East, right? But could you
Yes.
imagine if the Colts stayed in the AFC East and it would have been Peyton Manning and Tom Brady
Yes.
battling for the division
point.
every year? What could have been?
Yeah.
That was a guaranteed win during the Bills' 2 and 14 years when they played the Colts at home. So I was sad to see them leave too.
And when they played the Chargers, the quarterback wasn't Jim Kelly. It was Bruce Coslin and Vince Ferragamo.
Vince Ferragamo. And I was at that game. That was 14-9, the season opener. And I remember that was a big deal in coming from the Rams. And Scott Norwood was the one that kicked 3 field goals back in 1985. I didn't even know he was on the team until a few days ago. Very interesting.
Yeah, I didn't know that until you told me a few days ago.
Guess what? He was a spring football guy. He kicked with the Birmingham Stallions and
Wow.
the USFL back in the 80s, the one that that went bankrupt because they couldn't afford to pay all those guys $50 million like the NFL guys. So
I didn't realize he came from there.
and as you know, Ray, Joe loves it when I talk USFL spring football
Yes.
and everything.
I was going to say
biggest
he's the king of that.
But I'll get to what could happen to the future of spring football later in the broadcast. But let's move on. We're gonna talk last week. We talked about 4 Bills players who shined through the first halfway point of the season. Now I thought it would be nice to take a look at the Bills team game strategies thus far. So first, let's take a look at the Bills run game. Let's take a look at that run game, shall we? As James Cook has 2 touchdowns on 120 carries, the running back with his 678 yards is the 5th skilled back in the NFL. Now that the Bills have signed Leonard, always remember, never Fournette, to the practice squad, once he learns their system and if he gets activated. So do you think he will be a good fit to come in for Latavius Murray and James Cook on goal line and short yardage placements, just like Damian Harris did before he got hurt? Joe, you start. What do you think?
Well, I was in school today, so I was doing some homework, and we talk about how, it seems like when the Bills run the ball well, they're successful. And I know Ray complained a little while ago that they ran the ball a little bit too much in this Bengals game at that one point. But I looked up some stats here, and the Bills are 5-4, right?
Yeah.
Every game that the Bills ran for over 100 yards, they've won. Every game that they've run for under 100 yards, they've lost. I thought it was I thought I was going to find a trend here as far as the number of times they ran the ball, thinking, there was a few games earlier, like against the Raiders and Washington, where, obviously the Bills win those games big, and they ran the ball 35 and 33 times respectively, but, they ran the ball. Where is it? I was like, close to 30 times against the Giants, and they almost lost that game. But all the games that they went over 100, they won. 183 yards rushing against the Raiders, 168 against Washington, just barely, 104 against the Dolphins, 128 against the Giants, and 115 against the Buccaneers. They won all of those games. The games they lost, the Jets, 97 yards. And they lost barely in overtime, right? 29 yards rushing total in the whole game against Jacksonville. Wonder why they lost that one. 81 yards against the Patriots, 68 against the Bengals. So the rushing game is huge with this offense. And again, the passing game for sure, Ray, is their strength. And I completely agree with that. But when this team runs the ball well, obviously you could see that's when they're the most successful. Now, I agree with bringing Fournette in here. I mean, why not? I don't know how much of a difference he can make, but basically to get somebody to do what Damian Harris was doing. But just with that wild card factor of a Super Bowl champion. I think we talked about that last week.
We did.
That he has that winning mentality. He has that Super Bowl experience on a team that's looking to go over that playoff edge here, and I think would be a big help here. So certainly anything this team can do, I don't think this is an accident here. These statistics. So when the Bills run the ball well, they're successful, and now they have a chance to run the ball well against Denver here. So that's key to this team, is getting a good run game going. And, James Cook, I'm happy with the way he's played. I think they should pass him the ball a little bit more. How many times does Josh Allen just need like a little 5-yard, screen pass here? And Cook is the guy for that. And he can, break tackles and gain speed and create big plays, I think, if they would to do that. But, to get these guys involved, I mean, Cook and Murray's done a fine job, I think. Get Fournette in there as soon as you can and, see what you can do. But I think the running game is very, very important to this team.
And if we make the playoffs, we got to get him in because of his nickname, Playoff Lenny, as we talked about.
Exactly.
Anyway, Ray, what do you think about the Bills' running game and what they need to do? And James?
Joe, I think that's good homework, Joe. That's good digging. I didn't realize that their stats. Let me correct myself. I'm not against them running. I don't like when you have. I think the Bills were deep in their own territory on that second possession, and they ran first down fine, but I think they only got a yard or two on that carry. I don't like that they went back to it right away. I'm not saying never run, but they put themselves in a bad position, and that's what I don't like. If you're only getting 2 yards on the first carry, I'm all for passing it the next 2 downs to get the first down, because most likely you're not getting 8 yards on the carry. Just odds of that. I like the Fournette acquisition. I'm surprised he's been out there as long as he has. Once again, the Bills love depth. So in the event something happens to Cook, you have a guy that can fill in. I think it's a lateral move, but a good lateral move. I don't think he's terrible. I think he's still awesome. He's fresh. He should be fresh. He's got experience. He can bring a positive vibe to the locker room. And when it comes to the goal line, now if we're talking short yards on the goal line or on the 1 yard line, I want to see Allen with the ball.
Right.
If it's on the 3 or 4 yard line, yes, use him there. I like he can catch. He should be experienced enough to block. I have no problem with them adding him to the 53-man roster, because I think the gentleman that they've added a few weeks ago, that's just an easy one to, not dress him. But you cannot go wrong with Fournette. I mean, especially with his experience. He knows what it takes to win. I really think that Allen will have a lot of confidence throwing to him. I mean, if Brady did, why wouldn't Allen?
Right.
And I don't think he's terribly expensive. And who knows? Maybe he'll be around next year too. Maybe that's a nice. Maybe it's a nice 2-year player for the Bills if he likes it here and they like him.
That's true.
Yeah, and you know how the Bills are with their 1-year deals and everything. If they like a guy, they don't have to. And that's common now. You don't have to pay the running backs these big contracts anymore. You're starting to see that trend around the league now.
You got to love a player that's on. He just signed for this year. You got to love a player that's hungry, knowing he's playing for the future too. He's going to give it all he's got. So that's good.
That's right. What's your take on it, Jamie? What do you think about the running game there?
I think Fournette is somebody we absolutely must add, and I hope we do activate him, because I think he's been practicing this week, and I want to say he did sign his contract. So once we elevate him, hopefully this week he'll be able to play on Monday night, and I hope to get to see him on Monday night, because I want to see him in a Bills uniform, and like I said, run him on the 3 to 4 yard line, but let's do our own tush push at the 1 yard line with Allen, as Ray said.
Yeah. I would love to be at that game when he comes out onto the field. So on a home game, I think that'll really energize the crowd, knowing, having a big name out there.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So now moving on to the Bills passing game and Josh Allen. While he has thrown for 17 touchdowns, totaling 2,165 yards, he leads the league in completion percentage at 71.1%. When Allen plays like we know he can, he's on. But when he struggles, it shows. While Stephon Diggs seems to get double teamed on almost every play, he still leads the NFL with 64 catches. Gabe Davis is having one of his best seasons yet, despite having a bad game last week with 0 catches for no yards and 0 touchdowns. Do you think the Bills should have gotten another wide receiver or even a tight end before the NFL trade deadline? Ray, what do you think?
I think they should have gotten another wide receiver. I don't know what happened from last year to this year. Why? I'm a little disappointed in Gabe Davis, but sometimes you don't know if it's the player. Is it the defense that's on him? Is it the plays not designed to him? I'm still bitter about him dropping that Jets pass last year when that long bomb to when Allen got hurt. That 75-yard pass he threw, but that's, I guess, water under the bridge. I really think they should have. I don't think the Bills will re-sign him. I was hoping that they would acquire Hopkins because Hopkins has a 2-year deal. At least it would fill in for next year. But then again, you have bright spots like Shakir. Since they didn't get another wide receiver, they added Fournette. They have different dimensions that they can throw to. And I think it's opened up more since Knox has gone out. And that's almost like adding a free agent or a trade when he comes back, taking somebody that was on the injured reserve. I just think it has to do, I believe they have the players. It's the same players, if not better than last year. And our offense was good last year. I think it's just utilizing them. The offensive line is better this year than last year. They can do it. They can do it. I have confidence they can do it. I hope Josh's confidence is still high. You know, I guess when you're of that pedigree, it should be, but you know, they're human too. But I wish overall, if you had to pin me down, yes, I wish they would have gotten one more good threat. Not just anybody, but a good, solid NFL proven player.
Joe, your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with that. It would have been nice to pick somebody up, maybe big name even. But remember, when we were doing the show during the preseason and during training camp, we were talking about the Bills' wide receiver depth. You know, we were talking about how, besides guys like Davis and Diggs and people like that, you had 2 great tight ends that could catch the ball. You had younger receivers like Shakir, people like that. Excuse me. So, we didn't mind the fact that they did not pick somebody up because there was a ton of depth there. But, Gabe Davis, either has a great game or he plays hide and seek and he's invisible. And this is like the 3rd game where he caught like no passes or maybe 1 pass for very little yards. So I don't see him coming back either because, there's other receivers out there, but it would have been nice, but I really, again, as we talked about, Jamie, during the summer, or as the season started, not the end of the world that they didn't get somebody, thinking that with all this depth, they should be okay. We keep saying, Diggs is having the best season of his excellent career, and even among getting double teamed on a regular basis, and he still gets free and still has, how many 100-yard games does he have this year? So he's amazing, and Shakir has really stepped up lately. He's been doing great. But again, I like Ray said, why is Davis not getting the ball? Is it because he's not getting free? Is it because they're not calling correct plays? Again, we don't have those answers here, but I don't know. They got to figure something out quickly because time is running out.
Yeah, and I think it is the games where Josh Allen airs it out to Diggs deep or to Davis deep. Davis catches them. If they don't call plays for him, he doesn't catch them. I think it's as simple as that. But yeah, and there is a wide receiver that we drafted this year But he's on the IR by the name of Justin Shorter from the Florida
Yes.
Gators. I wonder why we're not activating him, because he's another he's built like Mike Evans. He's a 6'4", 230-pound wide receiver. He's a beast, and he can catch the ball, and he's a freight train. So I mean, why don't we add him into the mix and activate him and get another big body receiver in there?
Right. You know that, and who's that other slot receiver that they had? I think they drafted him this year.
Isabella?
Andy
No.
Isabella, yeah.
Shorter? Justin Shorter?
We already
Yes.
talked about Justin Shorter. This is Andy Isabella we're talking about now.
Okay. No, I was talking. There's another one. I'm blanking on the name right now, but I thought he was a draft pick. But I know just give these guys a try and see what they can do. But
Well, you have nothing to lose, and all those years Isaiah Hodgins was on our practice squad, and he hasn't done much this year, but he made such an impact with the Giants last year. I want to use these guys. You draft them for a reason. You keep them for a reason. If you don't give them a chance, what's the point? So I like even just because I really don't think Gabe Davis is coming back next year. He's going to command too much money, and somebody will pay him. But the Bills don't have the money to pay him, so you keep it in-house if you can. And you have to acquire other people in free agency, but that's why you're drafting these wide receivers, because they know, just like they drafted Cook, because they knew Singletary was on his way out this year. So I think that's the case. You make a good point, Jamie.
Or based on what you were saying, Ray, if you're going to have like a what the heck, let's give it a shot attitude, and you're not going to go with these younger guys, then why don't you just throw the ball down the field to Davis and Diggs?
That's right.
And try to make them make the big plays. What do you, again, like you said, what do you got to lose? If you're not going to go with these guys, then what do you got to lose? Throw 40-yard passes down the field, and not every play, of course, but
sure,
try it a little bit more and see what happens.
We don't throw enough downfield. We're 10 to 12. I'm not saying throw it 30 times, but we don't have enough chances. We don't, at least pass. It might be a pass interference. You never know. But give the defense a thought.
Okay, so now we're going to move. These are all great points, guys, but now we have to move on to how about the run defense? And as I already mentioned, losing Matt Milano and Daquan Jones have been hard, especially in the run game up the middle. But with the addition of Linval, the tush push stopper Joseph, he should be able to give them needed help what they're looking for. What else do you think they could do to help out the defense, Joe, besides adding our Pat Williams, Ted Washington type of player there in Joseph?
Yeah, I'm not supposed to say this on a podcast, but I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it's obviously the injuries. You don't like to use that as an excuse, but certainly it factors in here. Again, luckily they do have depth. Again, you're certainly not the talent level of Milano, Jones, et cetera, but guys are stepping up. Again, you've seen the growth of Epinesa. It looked like he might be a draft bust, and now he's starting to come into his own. Russo's playing solid. Like some of these guys aren't. Von Miller has been a little disappointing. You wonder if the injury is still affecting him. I think it is because of the type of player that he is. I don't think he's declined that quickly, that badly. So, I think he's still suffering the effects of the injury there. But, just, I don't know, use the depth and just, hope these guys can grow into it and just, do the best they can. But, they're in a tough situation with that just because of the quality that they've lost.
Yeah, sure. I agree with that. Ray, your thoughts?
I agree with Joe. There's not much they can do. Jamie, I think you put Joseph on the line. You add the beef where they are. If you look at some of the Bills' stature, Epinesa does not look like a lineman. Bernard does not look like a linebacker. He looks like a defensive back. And the same thing with Dorian Williams. So it is what it is. So you go with that. But I think the way you help out your run defense is you help them out with your offense, our strength. I think we just got to score more. we just got to score. And if it's a track meet, it's a track meet. But, we are who we are. You can't get 350-pound men out of nowhere unless you're the Bills with Joseph this week. But we just got to maybe blitz, maybe put another guy in the box. But then we already have a depleted secondary, or not depleted, but a hurt and older secondary. So it's a tough one. I don't throw arrows at the defense. My arrows go to the offense. So I think you help your defense by scoring more and working on that side of it.
Exactly. And you said it perfectly too. I have no problem with this defense. This defense is still one of the best in the league, despite all the injuries. It's our offense is a work in progress late in the year when it shouldn't be. So, moving on now to the pass defense. With the loss of Trey White and Kyer Elam not really panning out for the Bills so far, Brandon Beede traded for cornerback Rasul Douglas to help in the secondary. Do you think that by bringing in Douglas, it will give the Bills enough help in the cornerback position for short term and possibly next year when Trey White comes back? Ray, your thoughts?
It absolutely should, for two reasons. From what I understand, he is a ball takeawayer, whether it's from forced fumbles or interceptions. I can't say I've heard of him, but one thing I always analyze is when a player is acquired, what was the compensation for? And we see a lot of trades where it's like they only gave up a fifth for him. Yeah, I thought he was worth more, but if the Bills gave up a third, he must be pretty good and pretty valuable. And the person that Joe and I have a friend that was saying that the Green Bay fans were pretty upset that Douglas was traded, and so I take pleasure in knowing that. But you know what, we needed somebody to fill in for Trey White. I don't know if he's as good as Trey White or not, but at least he's in the same neighborhood of talent from what I understand. I just don't know what happened to Elam. He last year was playing, and all of a sudden he's not. I mean,
he's on injured reserve. He's on injured reserve right now, but they plan to activate him later in the year.
Well, good. I still wouldn't give up on him. I mean, he's still in a rookie contract. He still has 2 years left. Sometimes people come around a little bit later. Epinesa was a no one for a couple of years till the beginning of the year, and he's cheap and he's experienced. So I mean, we need depth. Our guys are getting older, and the injury bug is certainly going around in defense. So I'm glad they brought Douglas in.
That's why we have 10 draft picks next year, because what you're going to see is I think we're going to go from being one of the oldest teams to one of the youngest teams in the league with all these draft picks next year. That's what I think you're going to see, a big transition to that, which will help for next year too. If we finish well this year to win the Super Bowl, being younger next year will pay dividends as well. So anyway, now that the Bills will be taking on the Denver Broncos this Monday night, let's make our predictions. Joe, would you like to go first?
All right. Yeah, we were just complaining about the Bills offense. I think they drop a 30 spot here today or Monday. My prediction is Bills 30, Broncos 20.
Okay, Ray, what do you think?
34-21, the Bills. If they drop this game, we're in trouble.
If they drop this game, they're done.
You cannot lose to an AFC opponent like the Broncos at home. The conference record is way too big, and I think the Bills are feeling the pressure. They know what they have to do. They may publicly say one thing, but they know, and they're supposed to know more than us. So if we see it, they see it. I think the offense is going to rebound. The defense, they can afford to give up some points. That's fine, as long as the offense comes through. So 34-21 Bills.
I think the Bills bounce back with the offense. I do think the offense puts up over 30, but I think the defense holds them to under 20. So I got the Bills 30, the Broncos 13.
Okay.
Good.
And notice that score, because that's the score we lost to the Cowboys in the Super Bowl, 30-13.
Yeah.
But anyway, I digress. we don't need to bring back painful memories like that. Anyway, it looks like we are now coming to the end of our show. So Joe, where can we find you in this social media world today on Tuesday, November the 7th of 2023?
All right, and 2023, I guess the site is called X these days. So Joe Dal Sports is where I'm at on X/Twitter.
And now, Ray, I know you don't have any social media, but tell us where we can actually find you.
Well, you can find me by listening to me. When I call GR, I go by Ray and Clarence, formerly Cardinal and Cheektowaga, but I don't think they accept any of those gimmick names anymore. So Ray and Clarence.
Okay, and then as always, you can follow me, yours truly, your favorite host, at Bill's Chat 1, at Bill's Mafia Chat, and also Jamie Malloy, the unbiased journalist, at DJ Dog Tags on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. And that account has just been verified, so go check out that account as well as the Bill's Mafia Chat account. And also you can find me at DefiantTakesFootball.com, where I write football stories about the Bills, Syracuse football, and spring football. And speaking of spring football, there's going to be a major announcement on November 13th about what the league could be. Now it's saying it could be a 12-team league with 8 teams all in the USFL staying and only 4 from the XFL joining this new merge league. So stay tuned next Monday for that announcement. Thank you very much for listening, folks. And remember our 3 things at the end of each episode. For this week, Joe Burrow can try to run the tush push on us. Good luck with that, because Vinal Joseph is going to move his big tush and move you out of the way and push you out of the way, Joe Burrow. And anyway, it's okay for the Bills to win 3 wide receivers and 1 tight end, as that's our personnel right now. And the Kansas City Chiefs have been doing well at that for the last couple of years. And it's also okay for your running back to kick a field goal for the Houston Texans for your
That
team.
was awesome.
That was awesome. And to quote our friend and longtime ESPN anchor, longtime member of Bills Mafia, probably the biggest Bills fan in the sports media, national sports media landscape, Chris Berman, nobody circles the Vinal Joseph wagons like the Buffalo Bills. See you next time, folks.
All right, good night.
Take care. Thanks for having me.
To rock this place. Hey! Hey!